Hello, Cleveland. Welcome to the Dawgland Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Joki. I have Jackson McCurry alongside me today. Today on our show, we are going to actually do our first mock draft Monday of the season. Jack and I have been itching to get into some draft content this year, so we are going to do a live 7 round mock draft on the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator and go through the 7 rounds here and see how the board kind of shakes out for the Browns as we move along through each pick. Jack, I know this is probably a lot earlier than we wanted to do one of these, but with the Browns sitting at their current record and how close we are to draft season and what positions we already know that we're targeting for next year's draft, having 2 first round picks, let's get in here and figure some of this out, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it's as good a time as any. We're coming off the bye week. The Browns are 2-6, currently hold a top 10 pick. Like you said, we have 2 1s. There is about a month left in the college football regular season, and we have a good sense right now of who we expect to be at the top of the board come next April. Of course, it will change in the next 5 months. We know that we've been dealing with Browns drafts and mock drafts for so long that the board we're looking at today, Anthony, is going to look so much different come late April.
Yeah, it'll be a fun exercise to do it now and then maybe kind of take a look back at this first mock draft Monday, in March or April, see how things are. Because you're right, the board changes. It's very, very fluid. Like you said, it'll be so much different than what we see here today. And it changes even from that first week in April till the end of April when the draft is. So it's just a constantly changing thing as more information comes out, the combine hits, all that kind of stuff. So it's a fun exercise to do, and that's why we want to get in here and do it today. And when we
Well,
look at, oh, go ahead.
and not to mention, like, there's guys on the board, like, let's just say Dante Moore right off the bat. He might not even come out. Like, there's rumors now that he's going back to college. Obviously, he's a highly touted prospect, but he only has this year in terms of experience as a full time starter. So he might not even be on the board, even though right now he's a projected top 5 pick and could even be the first quarterback off the board. So between even now and 2 months from now, come January, once guys start making decisions, like the board will look totally different in that short a time span as well.
Yeah, and the another factor in this too is the NIL money that gets thrown around. Guys are maybe more apt to go back to school if they're a projected third, fourth round pick because they could probably make more money, that first year or then their first year in the NFL. So NIL has
Yep.
played a huge part in this over the last couple of seasons in terms of guys not projected to be first and second rounders, in terms of going back to school.
Yeah, Carson Beck, prime example. Last year was a projected probably late day 2, early day 3 pick. Got a big money deal to go play in Miami, and he'll probably be a day 3 pick again, just because it has not worked out for him and the Miami Hurricanes. And that's the positives and the negatives of the NIL. You can go back to school, get another year of experience, and it may help your draft stock, but it may not, like in the case of Carson Beck. So, yeah, it's a much different world than what we dealt with even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, college football has changed so much, and it has ultimately affected the draft as well.
I know I had found some old files of our podcast, and our first show was talking about Myles Garrett and if he was going to be the consensus number one overall pick when we, picked that April, and lo and behold, that was the case. So that was our first show, was the Myles Garrett draft, and it's crazy that we're sitting here 9 years later still doing this, but it's been a lot of fun. So all right, let's take a look at how the top of the draft looks in terms of order right now. So this is updated as of last night after the Sunday night football game. And currently the New Orleans Saints have the number one pick, followed by Tennessee, the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins, and then the New York Football Giants, followed by the Cleveland Browns. So, as of right now, obviously, this will change from now until draft day, but Browns are in the sixth selection. And when you look at these teams at the top of the draft, Jack, you look at New Orleans, you look at both or the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins as teams potentially needing quarterbacks ahead of the Browns at this current point. You look at the Vegas Raiders behind us as well as maybe a team that could draft one. So,
And
you
the
know,
and the Cardinals,
yeah,
they're in that case.
definitely an opportunity there too. So a lot of teams here in the top 10 need quarterbacks, and you know it's not a guarantee that we can get one at this moment.
No, not at all. Like we're not in a good position right now, and arguably we're waiting to see when Shador Sanders gets his chance, and if he gets enough time. I think regardless if he gets like 3 or 4 games, or maybe even a couple more than that, 5 or 6, I still think regardless of how he performs, I would probably bet on the Browns taking a quarterback in next April's draft as of right now, but the way the order is shaking right now, you got the Saints who just turned it over to Tyler Shuck. He looked okay in his first start, but he's going to have the rest of the season to prove himself. The Jets currently with Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, and they're probably looking at drafting one next April. Miami, even though Tua is there and the contract is what it is. I mean, he is there at least through next season, but they could look to find a new quarterback with a whole new regime. So the Browns are not sitting in a good spot right now. And it's funny because obviously the rumors are that the Browns want to be buyers at the deadline. Are they going to put themselves in a position where they will not be able to pick the quarterback of their choosing? And then you're going to look at other guys besides Mendoza and Moore. So the next 9 weeks, Anthony, are going to be very key for the Browns. Are they going to be stuck in limbo once again and not be able to have their pick of the litter, or do they ultimately fall apart here down the stretch and put themselves in a position to potentially draft a franchise quarterback come next April?
Well, on the bright side at the moment, because we have two first round picks projected right now at 6 and 19. If you're pick 4, 5, or 6, 7 or 8, you can still probably move up a decent amount to that second or third spot if you really wanted to get a quarterback when you have teams like the Tennessee Titans that don't need one at the moment. So if that could be an opportunity to move up, the New York Giants, if they continue to fall with how their season's gone so far, that could be an opportunity to move up to get a quarterback. So because you do have the ammo from the Mason Graham trade with Jacksonville last season, which is kind of looking pretty decent because, not only did we get a first round pick this year, but, Travis Hunter is out for the season for them as well. So that trade is looking pretty decent so far. And it'll all be determined by what happens in this year's upcoming draft. But if you package both those first round picks, and obviously it'd probably take some more to move up, 2 or 3 spots from where they sit at 6 currently, there's definitely an opportunity to get a quarterback that way.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's what Andrew Berry has done in trades. He has given them more ammunition to potentially move up or down the board to get players he wants. So if, like you said, if we're in the 4, 5, 6 range by the end of the season, having that extra Jacksonville first could help us and moving up with, say, a Tennessee or potentially the New York Giants, to swab with them to get to get in position to get the quarterback of their choosing. Yeah, it's good to have the extra draft capital, and we might even garner some more here in the next 24 plus hours prior to the trade deadline if we move off some vets, for some more draft picks, some more ammunition to hopefully get into a spot to get the player that we need to turn this franchise around.
All right, let's dive into the mock draft here. And I want to preface this by saying I did a handful of these just as testing in terms of, getting our screen and everything laid out correctly and whatnot. Top 5, top 10 picks have kind of been all over the place in terms of the draft board. And, I don't know with this simulator how much team needs are projected into the players that are ultimately taken in this version of a simulator. So we're gonna go through this, and whatever falls to us at 6, we'll work with it and go figure things out that way. So, all right, let's get going here. We are going to start this draft.
Oh,
I didn't select the team, did I?
I don't think you
Hold
did.
up. I'll start. 5-yard penalty and Anthony.
All right.
All right, so we are gonna hide this for now. All right, so top 5, Ruben Bain, really good edge rusher. Caleb Downs, tremendous defensive player to Tennessee. Quarterback taken by the Jets, Dante Moore. Miami, who traded an edge away today, takes Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. The New York Giants take Jordan Tyson, who already have a quarterback in Jackson Dart. Pairing him with another young receiver, out there in New York. All right, so that leaves the Browns here in a position to take probably maybe the best quarterback. It's definitely a two-person debate at this moment in time between Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. Jets took Dante Moore in this draft, but let's talk about Mendoza here and your thoughts about him, as we begin the beginning of November.
Yeah, I mean, during the whole spring and summer, it was there, we talked about Arch Manning, we talked about Carson Beck. Like there was numerous quarterbacks, Lenore Sellers, there was other guys we were talking about, but the one name that kept popping up during the college preseason was Fernando Mendoza. He came from Cal, transferred to Indiana. We've seen what Indiana has built there in the last couple years with Kirk Signetti, and he's building a great program there. Obviously, they're number 2 in the country behind Ohio State. That's shaping up to be a showdown. Pretty sure to be the Big Ten championship because I don't think we play them in the regular season. But Mendoza has everything that you want in a quarterback, Anthony. He's got the height, he's got the arm strength, he's got the accuracy. Like he has been everything that they, said like this could be the guy that like could sneak up on people's draft radars, and he has done just that. Like, if you're talking about guys that could be in the Heisman race, it's Julian Sand, it's Fernando Mendoza. Like, I would say those are probably the top 2 front runners for the award. Great, accurate thrower, 72% completion percentage. He doesn't turn the ball over, only 4 picks this year. And he's just every week he's been great. Like against Oregon, like he was shaky, did turn a ball over, but led them to a win and just keeps doing what he needs to do to help Indiana win. And I think that's what you want in a franchise quarterback, a guy that's going to come in there and elevate the players around him, be the leader, be the signal caller, and whoever is going to be in position to get him come April, I think is getting a phenomenal prospect that has all the tools to turn a franchise around.
Yeah, a lot of teams were, a lot of the draft talk with Mendoza was like, all right, let's wait until they play somebody. And it was that Oregon game where, he was able to obviously get a win against a top 5 team at that time, with Oregon there. So that was kind of a prove it game. And, you mentioned the collision course between the Ohio State Buckeyes and Indiana. That game for Mendoza in the Big Ten championship game, as it currently stands projected to be, is going to be insanely huge for his draft stock. That is a game because of how good Ohio State's defense is, really hardly giving up any points so far this season. That game for Mendoza could solidify him easily as the number 1 overall pick in terms of this year's draft. So I think that I'm very excited to see that collision between a really good Ohio State defense with, Caleb Downs, who was just taken in this draft at number 2, Arvell Reese still on the board here as well. Like the Buckeyes defense is really good. So I'm excited to see that potential matchup between Ohio State and Indiana down the road.
Yeah, it's going to be like he's played 2 top 10 teams. Illinois at the time he threw for 5 touchdowns. Oregon, like you said, we like what we talked about, he did just enough to win, but that's going to be the ultimate test. Like, I don't think it's going to make or break his draft stock just because Ohio State's defense has been downright like historic this season so far. I don't think it'll make or break him as a prospect, but it's going to be the ultimate test if things stay on track the way they are. Like, it's going to be a phenomenal Big Ten championship game. If we get the privilege of seeing that here in about a month or so.
Hopefully that'll be the case. As long as I'm pretty confident about winning out until the Big Ten championship game. Obviously, there's that date at the end of the month up in Ann Arbor that is going to be a tough test as it always is, and a must-win game for Ryan Day at this point in terms of being the head coach of Ohio State. So that'll be a fun one. But looking forward to the potential matchup between Ohio State, Indiana, Big Ten championship game, or even in the college football playoff too, because whichever team loses that Big Ten championship game will still probably get into the playoff, even if Ohio State doesn't get past Michigan and loses in the Big Ten championship game. They're still going to get in
Oh, without a
at two
doubt.
losses over ahead of some of these other teams. So there's definitely the potential for a matchup in the Big Ten championship game and even a rematch in the playoffs too between OSU and Indiana. But we are going to go with uh, Fernando Mendoza with this pick. Certainly, a case could be made for others, but with the Browns needing a quarterback at this point in time, we are going to go with Mendoza. And at 19, we have some other interesting options on the board here. Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. Chris Bell, receiver out of Texas. Isaiah World, really good left tackle out of Oregon. Couple edge guys. Denzel Boston, a receiver out of Washington. And when you look at in terms of having a franchise quarterback, you need to protect them. And maybe the biggest issue with the Browns this season has been the lack of consistency on the offensive line in terms of the guys being out there, the offensive line being older, guys like Batonio and Teller, getting up there in age. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago where the five guys that are out there now, Jack, could not all be here next year. This could be a completely different starting five next year on the offensive line for Cleveland. And I know the draft is certainly one way that they are going to attempt to fix the current issue that they have with the offensive line.
Yeah, without question. I think, they traded for Cam Robinson. He's been okay. This next 9 weeks will be key for him because he could be one of the guys that they bring back to try to stabilize the offensive line here for the next year or two while they try to add some young guys in. Obviously, they have young guys waiting in the wings with Whippler, Zinter, Tevin Jenkins here, and that'll hopefully bring or solidify the interior, but the tackles are the issue. Dewan Jones, obviously another knee injury. He's done. He's probably not going to be in the long term cards. So you look at offensive tackle, and this is honestly where like one of the debates of the draft comes. And Cincinnati had this situation a couple years back. I think it was 2021. Had Jamar Chase on the board. Had Penny Sewell on the board. They obviously went with Chase, and obviously that's made their offense electrifying with having Chase and Higgins. But offensive line continues to be an issue at times for the Bengals. So this is where the Browns are. Like the way we're sitting right now, Anthony. Like you could take Isaiah World here at 24, or you can go with one of the receivers, Chris Bell, who has turned some heads this year at Louisville. Denzel Boston at Washington. They're both phenomenal. I think you could go either way here at 19, offensive tackle or receiver. And then at pick 39, I think you can address whatever position we don't address here. So I am all for tackle or receiver here. There's obviously some good prospects there to consider. So I am down either way. If we go Bell or Boston, great. Helps add a receiver to this room, which is needed. Or we take Isaiah World and look at wide receiver potentially later on in the second round.
Yeah, I would prefer to take the tackle in the first round. It's a position, that they've needed. Even when we had Jed Wills, obviously didn't play the best and he hasn't, signed with anyone since his contract expired. But, left tackle was certainly a thing that we've been looking at the last couple of seasons. And having 2 first round picks, I think if you take a rookie quarterback like we did, you have to take a tackle to protect them. And with that, I would go with Isaiah World here, as long as you go with it.
Yeah, yeah, we could do
All right.
it because there's names at 39 that intrigue me for their wide receiver. So
All right. So we will hit Isaiah World here for the Browns and pick 39. All right.
and those names went off the board, wide
Yeah.
receiver.
All those names went off the board, of course.
And
So,
it's okay, it happens.
all right. In terms of some of the guys here, edge guy, a couple corners, uh, offensive guard could be an option. The center from Alabama, Parker Brailsford, certainly an option. So, do you want to focus on fixing the offensive line? Do you want to go somewhere else at this point? Because there's a couple guys here in terms of interior offensive line with, and this is our favorite time of the year for you because you really enjoy me trying to pronounce some of these names, and I always have a hard time with it. But I practiced this one earlier. Oliva Vega Ione is certainly an option in terms of interior. I mentioned Parker Brailsford as well. So, do you want to take a guard? Do you want to take a center here at 39? One of these other guys that are currently on the board, what's your preference?
Um, so here's the thing: we're not gonna be able to fix the whole offensive line situation in an off season. It's just unrealistic. I know people are gonna say, "Well, we can do it on mock draft simulators, and you can do it on Madden." Well, this isn't a video game. This is reality. So I think you're gonna think like an NFL GM would think. Like, I know we're probably gonna add some vets to the offensive line to try to stabilize it, including some of the guys that are already here. You got to draft the best players. And I think the way we sit right now here, Anthony, like as much as I would like to just like rebuild the offensive line in one draft, I think you got to think realistically here. So you look at Mateo Yuga Lele, the edge out of Oregon. I would look at him or I'd look at the corner Will Lee out of Texas A&M because you look at the edge room currently. Alex Wright is an impending free agent. Isaiah McGuire will be entering his final year of the contract, and I think you got to keep looking at building depth on that defensive line. You got to keep putting pieces around Miles Garrett and Mason Graham to achieve and sustain their success that they're having. And then you look at the corner room. Denzel's not getting any younger. Martin Emerson is going to be a free agent. Tyson Campbell's here, at least in the short term. And then there's no depth in that corner room. So I would go and look at either one of those two premium positions and look to address it there at pick 39 because we couldn't get receiver. We'd be reaching on guys at this point. Some of the guys that I was interested in are off the board. So I'd go the edge or the corner route, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, it's certainly, tough way that things fell for us here. I what do you think about safety because of the two guys that we currently have in the back end? What do you think about taking a safety at this point?
I think Delpit is playing his way into another contract with the Browns because I feel like he's had a really good year. Hickman has been okay. I don't look at him as a long term piece right now. Click on Feynman's scouting profile right now, just to, so he looks like based on his production, he looks like more of a strong safety. So that would just be adding another body to the room with Delpit. I don't know if I would look at him as much as a free safety. He can play. I mean, he looks like based on that early scouting report that he could. We could. That's another name actually. Reading that scouting report real quick, like he's a guy that could. So he'd be in the discussion too. So honestly, like edge, safety, or corner here, All three are top 40 prospects. So, and they all could very well help that Browns defense continue to wreak havoc. So, and it's hard to go here. I mean, the edge out of Oregon's a projected first round pick right now, so it would make sense to just take the best player off the board. But
I'm totally okay with that. All right, so we will go
okay,
with Mateo Ugalele here at pick 39 and see where the board falls to us at 70, which is the next Browns pick. All right, let's take a look and see what we have receiver wise here at this spot. Handful of guys all ranked around 70 and around 70. And personally, I know what I would do here. I would pair up Fernando Mendoza with his favorite target at Indiana, Elijah Surratt. That's personally what I would do. Get him a familiar target. Certainly a guy that could be potentially a number one receiver alongside Jerry Jeudy. Your thoughts?
what's his measurables? Can you click on his scouting report real quick?
6'2", 209.
So he's got good size. He's got the speed. Yeah, I would agree with you honestly here. Like you're getting Mendoza a familiar target. He's great in in receiving yards after contact. Obviously, like you make a strong case for it. So I am all on board with drafting Surratt right here.
Yeah,
Get somebody familiar with Mendoza in this scenario, and
all right. Hopefully that gives the Browns a 1-2 punch with in terms of receiver, which they desperately need one. All right, now at pick 107, let's see, take a look at the board here. Guard, Oregon, safety from Alabama, a couple defensive players, tight end out of Baylor, Michael Trigg, who has massive hands and has a big catch radius as well. Your thoughts on how the board is and where we're at?
yeah, see, at this point, like it's best player available, and if they fit a need, Pregnon, the guard out of Oregon, we talked about trying to fix the offensive line. Like Zinter, right now you're looking at Zinter and Whippler as they're penciled in as projected starters next year. Tevin Jenkins is a free agent, so you're going to have to address the interior in some form. I think during the draft in terms of like a mid round pick. So at this point, I would be fine with Pregnon. Um, Michael Trigg. I think we know Alex Hale watches the gauntlet drills, and you said with the massive hands and the great catch radius, probably going to be a guy that's going to be uh, getting that perfect score in the gauntlet come NFL Combine time. So I wouldn't be opposed to getting another big tight end, especially with Njoku currently expected to be a free agent this offseason, unless the Browns trade him or extend him. Um, and the safety is also in the cards. But if we're going best player available, I would take Emmanuel Pregnon to continue to try to rebuild the offensive line.
Yeah, I think once we get, especially these early drafts in November that we're doing, BPA is probably the best option. So we will go with Pregnon here. So far, in terms of the offensive line, we've taken a tackle and a guard as well. Next pick for us is number 147.
So we got 3 out of the 4 in that span. So
Yeah, I
that's
know we have 147, 148, and 150. So three guys here. Obviously, probably as going best available. As you take a look, couple offensive linemen, couple safeties, Earl Little Jr. Available.
the son of a Browns legend, Earl Little.
A couple running backs as well. Your thoughts currently
And we
where we sit at?
and we could all and we could always double dip at offensive tackle. I mean, that could be in the cards here.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about best player available here at this point. The safety out of Penn State, I think, would be one of the picks if you want to just go ahead and do that because we got 3 out of the next 4, so we have our pick of the litter here.
All right, so we will do Zeke Wheatley out of Penn State at 147.
I mean, Andrew Barry. I mean, he's still currently the GM, and he always takes a corner at this point. At some point, so maybe Brandon Cease, the corner out of South Carolina, would make sense here. at 148.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And then, I mean, if we're looking at right now, we got 3 offensive tackles, 2 wide receivers. I don't know if running back is so weird. I could see them taking one on day 3 just because, but we have Judkins and Sampson as things stand. So honestly, I'm fine with double dipping at any of the spots right now, wide receiver, tackle, or guard. I mean, it's your call in this scenario.
Well, let's take a look here. Branch 5'10", 175.
Track star.
Track star, definitely an opportunity. 332 punt return yards last year as well.
I
So
remember him at USC. He was a guy that I think was like a day 3 option last year, and he's got the speed and everything. Like we already have Isaiah Bond and currently Malachi Corley, so those are 2 already speed threats. I don't remember how good Branch's hands are, so that's kind of would probably be a deciding factor because you want somebody that can run but also catch because we've obviously had Anthony Schwartz, Isaiah Bond, guys that are fast but can't catch the football. So it's kind of
I know I looked it up earlier. Jacarius Peak, Cage Casey are both left tackles. I'm not sure about Xavier Chaplin at this point, but in terms of being a later round selection, they could be, a swing tackle or even a project right tackle. You'd have to think that maybe DeJuan could go back to playing right tackle next year if we take Isaiah World in the first round or another left tackle. That could be your option, but we'll see how he bounces back from injury. I would be okay with going O-line here, and I would maybe take, if you're projected to have Zinter and Whippler maybe as starters next year, probably going to need somebody behind them to try and develop. I would be okay with going Kalen Rutledge here in terms of O-line, because right now, like we talked about, we're just kind of filling out positions of need with guys that are best player available. So I'm okay with taking Kalen Rutledge here.
and I did
Next.
while you were talking, I did look it up. Xavier Chaplin is a left tackle. So
Okay.
many
All,
left
th-
tackles.
all three of those guys are left tackles.
Yes.
All right. Pick 204, and we have 244 next. Probably going to pick best player available here. We have a bunch of receivers, couple corners. What are your thoughts?
We got D tackle. I mean, we could take another D tackle. I mean, Malik Collins is only here on a 2-year deal. Shelby Harris is could be here in the next 24 hours, could not be. I mean, it's you have Graham, you have Mike Hall Jr. So like you're gonna have to continue to add depth to that D tackle room. So if we're going best player available, I mean Skylar Gill Howard is the name there. Evan Stewart kind of has fallen off. If they wanted to double dip at receiver,
I see a guy at receiver down here that has intrigued me, and that is Nick Harbor out of
oh
South
Harbor,
Carolina.
yeah, that kid
Uh,
is insane.
He's
Is this your
6'5".
this is your EQ Brown or your Colin Johnson?
Um, Probably, especially with the physical
Yeah,
tools that
or
he
no,
has.
you liked Colin Johnson. I liked EQ Brown, so that was what it was.
Who was your receiver last year that this past draft that you liked that has
Oh
played
my
well this
gosh.
season?
Oh,
I'm
Torrey
trying to,
Horton.
yeah,
yeah,
he had a
yeah.
big night last
But
night.
he's yeah, oh yeah, he was. I made that hurt because I liked him 2 cycles ago when I was writing for Dogs by Nature, and then obviously I kept watching him, and I was like, this would be a great day 3 pick for the Browns, and
Yeah, Nick Harbor is
I'm
six
fine
foot
with it because we got.
five.
Obviously, I was fine with it because we got Shador Sanders, but yeah, that one
Right.
does hurt.
Harbor is 6'5", very fast for being 6'5". Definitely a big time red zone threat with the speed or with the height that he has. So I would go Nick Harbor here in the 6th round just because that's kind of like my guy already.
Let's take him.
All right, kind of banking on those physical tools in the 6th round there, and maybe we could turn him into something.
Yes.
All right, two more picks: 244, 248. Have a few safeties available. Corners, I would be good with going, safety here just to kind of have backup guys, maybe another corner. They probably need a couple this offseason. Um, I, w- I would be okay with taking a corner and a safety to kind of fill out the last two because we'd have some available here. So I'd take Judge Collier, which is a great first name, Judge. That'd be great. Um, TJ Metcalf out of Michigan. Uh, Capana Chicken out of Ole Miss, and Bryce Anderson out of Texas A&M. Um, you okay taking a combo corner and safety here, or something different?
Yeah, I'm good. Like TJ Metcalf, he has played free safety and slot corner from what I've seen out of Michigan so far this year. So I would not be any grades out okay for a day three pick. So I wouldn't mind taking him here and then getting a corner here with the last pick at 248.
All right, so we will take TJ Metcalf. Don't believe he's related at all. Uh, there, Metcalf. I looked it
And,
up at
and
some point earlier this season just to
and we
just to
can
check.
take Collier just to finish it off because he's best available.
All right, so you look at our draft here. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, left tackle Isaiah World, Mateo Ugalele, edge player at 39. Mendoza's favorite target, Indiana, Surratt, Regnon out of Oregon, guard, Nikki Wheatley out of Penn State, Brandon Cease out of South Carolina, Kalen Rutledge, guard out of Georgia Tech, Nick Harbor, 204 out of South Carolina, receiver, and then Metcalf and Collier to round out the draft. How we feel about our first mock draft of the season here?
I like it. I mean, as we get more familiar with the prospects, we'll be able to obviously share our thoughts on some of these guys, especially towards the back end of the draft. But I think most people are familiar with the guys at the top. And I think as it stands now on November 3rd, if this was the Browns' top four draft picks in April, I feel most of the fan base, I think, would feel pretty good about it. And the way they would hopefully, especially three out of the four, could help reignite the offense and get it back on track, hopefully.
Yeah, I think reigniting the offense, kind of how we were really defensive focused this last offseason. I think the offense is going to be the big time focus, and it needs to be this coming offseason. And this could certainly be a good way to get that jump started. All right, we are going to get on out of here. Be sure to give the Dogland a follow at the Dogland on pretty much every platform available out there: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, etc. Be sure to give Jack a follow at Jack McCurry08. Give me a follow at Anthony Joki. We'll be back later this week to preview the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. A battle that could end up determining draft position later on in April with the current records of both teams. So until then, we will talk to you at that point. And always remember, go Browns.
Go Browns.